Welcome to another tutorial on Quirrel. This tutorial is going to cover the where operator, which is how you filter in Quirrel. For this example, we're going to look at data from the Summer Games in London, where the athletes won medals. And so I've already run a query here that should be familiar from last time, using the / command to load all of the data that is in the Summer Games London medals path, and then assign that data using the assignment operator, which is : equals, into a variable called data, and then returning that data, and we get all the results down here. But oftentimes we don't actually want to look at all of the data that is available. Instead, we want to look at some smaller subset of that data, and that's where filtering comes in. So for example, over here we see that there are both male and female athletes, denoted by the capital M and the capital F strings. So what we might want to do is look at just at the data from the female athletes. So we would type where, so we're looking at the data where some condition is true, and in this case the condition we're looking at is true is whether data.sex is equal to the string capital F, and we go and run that query using Shift Enter. And what we're going to see is that only the data from female athletes returns here, so now we're only looking at data that has been filtered by this condition where this is true. Okay, but oftentimes we still don't want to look at that big of a chunk of data. We'd rather still look at something more specific. So in this case, we might want to know the sum of the gold medals that was had for across the entire games, perhaps. In that case, this is just capital G refers to the gold medals here. So we're going to look at the sum for all the medals, and we get a result there. If you're wondering why there's a decimal, gold medals are shared in team sports, and that's why you end up with not necessarily a round number. But we don't necessarily want to look at all the medals. Maybe we want to look at the gold medals that were won by some subset of people. In this case, let's go ahead and look at the gold medals that were won where the age of the athlete is greater than 30. So we can see that a much smaller number of gold medals were won by people over 30, which makes sense considering they would be increasing the medal count of, in general, if it was unfiltered. So that's one way to use a filter command, is to filter on a hard-coded variable like 30 there. Another practice that can be useful, especially in more complicated queries, is to create an intermediate variable. For example, we could call it threshold, and we would code that in to be 30, and then we would replace the 30 here with our threshold variable, and we could run the query again, and we get the exact same result, which is exactly what we'd expect. We could also, change this to 31. Go ahead and run, and we get a slightly different answer. And if you're going to be running a more complicated query where you might be having a threshold in multiple places, having just one place up top can be a very convenient coding practice to save you some time rather than going back in and hard coding all over the place. Another way we can use the where filter is rather than knowing what the information is going to be, to have it dynamically created. So let's go ahead and comment out this threshold variable, and we'll replace this with a function. So we'll have the results of some function. In this case, maybe we want to look at the sum of the gold medals where it's greater than the average age. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that query. So here we're going to get the sum of the gold medals where the age of the athlete is greater than the average age of the athlete. And we see the results down here. We can also combine these statements on the right-hand side of the where operator to be more complicated, so we could have conjunction, so we could use an and operator. And we might want to look at the sum of the gold medals where the age of the athlete is greater than the average age, and they're also male, for example. So there we could look at data.sex equals male, capital M in this case, run that query. So just to give you an example of how you could chain things together, have very complicated where operators if you need to do advanced filtering. So that's going to do it for now for the filtering with the where operator. Thanks for your time.